We're now going to move to Shaykh Arif's third out of 6 talks on the power of dua and closeness to Allah, which is the theme for the last 10 nights of this holy month. Shaykh Arif is known to many of us, and he originally founded the Al-Mahdi Institute in 1993, where he serves as director and senior lecturer in Usul, al-Fiqh and Muslim philosophy. For the last 20 years, he's been at the forefront of developing and delivering advanced Islamic studies, including training students capable of addressing the needs of contemporary societies. He was educated at Madrasa Sayyid al-Khuy, where he's taught as well. He furthered his studies in Qom, and he did postgraduate studies in the late 80s and early 90s. He attended private training and research studies with leading scholars of Qom in the early 90s, and on returning to the UK after founding the Al-Mahdi Institute, he continued his graduate studies under Ayatollah Amini, a student of Ayatollah Khuy. So let's welcome Salaam ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The third principle of dua is for us to understand that we can only want God from God. Nothing else is desired by us. We are in this false illusion that we own anything or that anything is ours. So asking for health and life and wealth, although are things that we need to ask for, but they are not the essence of dua. And we will talk about them in the future talk. We only yearn God from God. How do we explain this? Think of our lives. We come to this world within bodies. We leave these bodies and we go away. So what have we taken with us? Neither does our health come with us, nor does our property come with us, nor do our friends and family come with us, and our names and prestige is non-existent once we die. The only thing we take back is the actualized humanity of ours that is in a state of potentiality at this point. We want to actualize ourselves as we go back. We are on a journey on the face of this earth. The journey is all about us completing ourselves from within as we go onwards to meeting with God. That completion is through finding God. Finding God means allowing godliness to emerge through us. That is why we find in the Quran the prayer of the people who are in a state of salvation. They say, "O Lord, complete for us our light." And in another place they say, "And remove from our hearts any ill feelings towards the believers or others." What that signifies is that the only thing to be gained accurately is the light of God. In other words, God Himself, and become godly. Imam Hussein says so beautifully, and of course I paraphrase, that, "O Lord, I begin to understand this now, that in every affair of my life, your sole endeavor was to introduce yourself to me." As if to say, the motherly lap and the unconditional love that I encountered therein was a glimpse of your love and devotion to me. The sacrifices of my father was an introduction to how much you do for me and expend upon me. My brother's undying support was your support. My friends' non-judgmental acceptance of me was actually your acceptance of me. At every instance, it was you calling out to me for me to awaken to you and to reach out to you. Allah says He is the light of the heavens and the earth. Allah says He is the friend of those who bring faith in Him. He purges them from darkness and brings them into light. Now tell me, how do we gain that light? Is it by spending physical wealth in the way of God? Or is that just an effect of the real thing that is happening within? Hussein Salamullah alayhi says, "O Lord, you give before I ask, and you give plentifully. Then you ask me to give something back to you as a loan. Hesitantly, I give something in your way. You accept it, multiply it and give it back to me. Oh Lord, when was it not yours in the first place?" Can you see that? What do we really take back with us? We take back an actualized, godly soul. From insecurity, we move into security through God. From lack of confidence, we go into confidence through God. From fear of hunger and poverty and death and enemies, we become fearless through God. From need to the world to needlessness through God. As the Imam cries out in Joshan Kabir, Ya sanada man la sanada la. Or the support for the one who has no support. Ya tabib man la tabiba la. Or the physician for the one who has no physician. You are the real physician. Because when you keep me in sickness, that is the real cure that I need. Ya kanzal fuqara. Or the treasure for those in poverty. For the one who finds you, Hussein says in Arafah, what has he lost? And the one who has lost you, O Lord, what has he found? The finding of God, in other words, is allowing God to prevail through our beings. Imam Ali beautifully talks about the previous prophets. He says, if you want, I will explain to you about Moses. He made way from Egypt to Madain. He ate nothing but leaves en route to Madain. As he watered the animals for those two females, he retreated beneath the shade of the tree. At that point, the skeleton structures of the leaves were visible from the walls of his stomach. He had been reduced to that level in his body mass. And there he cried out, O Lord, whatever good you give to me, I am a beggar of it. What did Moses understand is the completion of his prayer? Then he says, Moses arrives in front of the Pharaoh, wearing rags, carrying a broken staff. Pharaoh smiles. He says, "O Moses, if indeed you are from the Lord of the worlds, where are the legion of angels? Where are the gemstones of diamonds and rubies? Where are the princely attire? Even your staff is broken." What the Pharaoh didn't understand was that Moses had found the treasure of all treasure, the might of all might from within himself. It wasn't in the bodily sense. And Moses only yearned that completion that made him needless of rows of army and of gold and silver. Imam Mahdi explains, if you want, I will explain to you the poverty of Isa, who was totally immersed in God. For his servant he took his 2 hands. For his steed he took his 2 legs. For his bed he took the cold earth. For his pillow he took the hard rock. For his covering he took the darkness of the night. He did not marry lest he be distracted from God. God was his completion. So the only thing we yearn from God in dua is God himself. How beautifully our Urfa have said that, O you deluded one, in the glitter of gold and silver and in the beauty of Layla, if only you knew who you are yearning. You will see another in the face of Layla, but not the face of Layla. And how beautifully Rumi says that if only you were to know your own worth, you will not yearn anybody but God. For He is the only one for you. He says, what you have inside you is so precious, so precious. For it is the house of the divine. He gives a bit of an analogy that I will say. He said, if I were to bring a blade from the treasuries of the kings of India, crafted from the best iron the world has to offer, and I were to tell you, put it to good use, and you begin to dig holes with it and cleave rotten meat with it, and I ask you, you do not make use of it, and you say, but I make full use of it. I ask you, is making use of it digging holes? Your soul is that beautiful. Making proper use of it is not running after the world and calling God to give you the world. Making use of it is to refine this beautiful locus so that the most beautiful one may begin to emerge through it. So the third principle of dua is that we yearn only God from God. Now if we read the Quran, in one place Allah does say, ask Allah of His fadl, of His grace. But in the 2 intimate verses in which God talks to us, He says something else. Say to my servants, I am near. Ujibu da'wata da'iya idha da'ani. I respond to my supplicant when he calls on to me. He does not say, I give. In another verse, he says, Ud'uni astajib lakum. Call me, I will respond to you. We have interpreted this divine, lofty verse to mean, ask me and I'll give to you. No, call me and I will respond to you. It's the loftiest prayer. Oh Lord, I'm calling you, and the Lord said, I'm responding to you. For a heart that feels the response of God, they become mindless of the kingdom of Sulaiman. Even if the whole galaxy were to be given to them in the clusters of universes, they will not care less. That is the response of God. When you can have the author himself, what cause do you have for a little glimpse of his handiwork? That is what we are after. Our calling is to God. And when we call God, He responds. I will give one little analogy. A child is lost. The mother is bewildered. She calls out for her child. Somebody comes with a cup of tea. Another comes with the gift. A third one comes with the promise of a house. A fourth one gives her a palace. She is as bewildered. She calls out to her child. And when the child responds, yes, mother, I can hear you and I'm here, the joy that she finds cannot be compared to the riches of palaces and gold and silver. That is how the soul rejoices when God responds. So the third principle of dua is that in dua, ultimately and inevitably we are calling God. When God gives health, He hasn't given anything. When God gives sickness, He hasn't given anything. When God gives a share of Himself through health and sickness, He is beginning to give the real thing. To be honest with you, even paradise that we yearn is on the way to God. It is nothing in and of itself. For how can one yearning his beloved be satisfied by a paradise? For how will Qais be satisfied with the palace of Layla beyond Layla? Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.